Today we're going to be doing an upgrade on the Dyna. I was able to get the parts a couple of months ago, something I've been thinking about doing for a while. I think it's going to be a pretty cool upgrade. But while we're doing that, we're going to talk about some of the problems I've had with buying a used Harley-Davidson. We actually bought this motorcycle several years ago. It belonged to my wife before we got married. She got a new bike, she got it painted purple, decided she wasn't going to keep this bike, and I bought it from her. But I started doing some upgrades and some maintenance to it this winter to make it more for me. And I ran into some things that I wanted to share with you guys about the problems with buying a used motorcycle and what I think is the most important tool to have at your disposal. All right, first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get this Memphis Shades fairing off here. And if you're not familiar with these are a quick release. Pop that side up. There's like a little thumb lock in here. Now the next thing we got to do is take this headlight out of here, take it off this assembly. So in my service manual, there's this exploded view of the headlight assembly, and you can see that this ring here, this is a cap that pops out, and that there's a nut underneath that is attached to a stud for this headlight housing, and that's how you get this off. Now, service manual is an important thing to have. This bike, when we bought it, came with slam shocks on it. They were shorter than factory by about 2 inches. And that's probably why Firecracker didn't like this bike that much and didn't ride as much, because it rode like a damn freight train. I mean, when I first started riding it after getting it from her, I realized just how bad it was. I never really rode the bike a lot before then. So one of the things I did this winter was find a set of takeoff shocks from 2000 era Dyna like this. Those are actually adjustable shocks. I did a video talking about that. But after I got the takeoff shocks and I went to mount them, I found out they didn't fit on these studs. Well, that's because the slam shocks that were put on there were for a 2005 and later. So somebody had changed out the shock stud bolts as well. So then I had to get some of those off of eBay. And of course, they didn't come with the nuts and the washers and all that. They were just the bare studs. So again, in the manual, you can get these exploded views, diagrams, things like that. And it allowed me to figure out where I needed acorn nuts, where I needed regular nuts, where I needed lock washers. Go ahead and buy all that stuff. I was able to get that all assembled back up and get it lined up, knowing it's using the right parts in the right places. And it's been solid ever since. But that, again, is an advantage to having a service manual. One of the other advantages to having the service manual for this bike is when I put those shocks back on, I knew the right torque specifications to tighten that stuff down. Another problem I had with this motorcycle this winter was I went to put new tires and brakes on it. And, well, it was a pain in the ass to get the tires mounted. They were, I don't know, warped during shipping or whatever, but they were really hard to get on there and stuff. But it ended up being that the tires and wheels were off the bike for a couple months, actually, by the time I got somebody to mount them and everything else and stuff. So anyway, that thing was disassembled for a couple months. I was able to go back and look at the manual, make sure I got the spacer in the right place, make sure I got things torqued down at the right level. If you get the wheel spacer in the wrong place, your calipers and your rotors aren't going to line up. That's not going to work out well for you. Now, checking the torque values are really important. You know, some people say, I don't need to do that. I just do it by feel and everything else. Well, I probably used to be that way, but I've learned to not be that way. We recently had a wheel bearing go out, and when that thing was serviced, when they went to fix it, the wheel bearing was all broke apart. The spacer was broke apart even. Now, the tire had been put on there just maybe 1,000 miles before and reassembled, so maybe it was going bad and they just didn't catch it, or maybe it just went bad. But it's pretty rare that I see a spacer broke like that in one of these situations. So I'm a little concerned that maybe it got over tightened. And that can happen. That's one reason that you want to torque things correctly. You don't want to crush these spacers or damage them or things like that. These torque specifications are there for a reason. So if you guys haven't figured out by now, the most important tool that I'm talking about is a service manual. And it doesn't matter if you're working on a used Harley-Davidson or if you're working on a used vehicle, if you're working on someone's lawnmower that you've never worked on before or whatever else. Having a service manual can be really beneficial, really help to make sure you don't break off a stud or over tighten a bolt and break it, things like that. It also sometimes can help you see how things come apart, save you time. Now, service manuals, if you go to buy one from a Harley-Davidson dealership, are generally over $100 for a new one. Once in a while, you might find one you need in a parts bin on discount, but the odds of that are pretty slim. What I like to do is buy a manual online. I've been getting mine from eManual Online. I'll leave a link in the description down below, along with the discount code if that's something you're interested in. But you can get them anywhere from $30 to $40 before the discount. So for 25 bucks, you could get a manual that could save you hours of time and trouble if you do a lot of your own maintenance. And if you're not sure that you're ready to do your own maintenance, get a manual. Start with small things. Build your confidence up, save yourself some shop rates, and save yourself some money and do a little bit of this stuff on your own. Changing your own oil is something you can do. But again, it's important that you have the right tools and that you torque things down correctly. You don't over tighten them. Stripping a drain plug is a really bad deal. So again, it's important to have a shop manual, and it can save you money and help you gain confidence to be able to work on your own motorcycle safely. Now let's get this thing apart and get started on this upgrade. Pry the little cap up. Careful not to drop it, but it comes up pretty easy. Inside we've got a big old nut. Okay, now you put the wide end with the concave up to the back. We'll have to use this bolt that came with the extension block. Come in from underneath. We're going to use the original spherical spacer and lock washer and nut. One thing that's really nice about these electronic manuals, you can just print a page out of the book, use it. If you get it greasy, dirty, whatever, throw it away, print a new one. Now, this thing says 25 to 30 foot-pounds according to the manual. So we're going to rotate this baby down. We don't need no 60 foot-pounds. I don't remember what I was tightening last, but it definitely wasn't a drain plug. There's 30. We'll do about 28. Now the headlight is going to mount back on this extension block. Now, I know you may think this was the upgrade, was the extension block, but that's just part of it. We're not putting the same fairing back on. We have a different fairing. Different fairing is why we need this extension block out here. And we're going to loosen those up a little bit so to make it easier to mount the fairing. Because this fairing is using a headlight extension, it makes it putting it on just a little bit more difficult because the headlight sticks out. Makes it a little harder to rotate it over the headlight. All right, so we got a hold of this used Road Warrior, and it needed new plates on it, so I was able to get plates for it. Took it to my buddy that painted April Sport Glide purple. He painted this the same shade of purple, which was as close as we could get to this factory color of this 2000 Dyna, because they don't make this color anymore. I think it looks good. We're gonna get it outside in the daylight, let you guys look at it, take it for a ride, see how the wind protection is, see how I like it looking over this. Now this is painted black on the inside, purple on the outside. But I sure think it looks good. I think bringing that headlight out flush makes a difference too with these kind of fairings. All right, today was the first day riding it with the new fairing on, and I definitely feel like it gives me more wind protection, at least across the chest. Not getting as much push. Not sure that it's helping a lot around the helmet, but I didn't feel like I had a lot of bobbling. I just, I still get some wind noise, but that's to be expected with this short of fairing and an open face helmet. All right, I found I really do like this setup though for a couple other reasons as well. Besides just the wind protection for me, I'm gonna be able to mount a camera up here on the handlebars pointing back off of one of these motorcycle mounts. They're designed kind of like for the 360. I'll show you a picture of it. But the fairing is actually going to protect the camera from wind and debris and bugs and some of that kind of stuff. And then if I want to flip it around and point it forward, I can just raise that up and point it right over the top of the fairing as well if I want that kind of viewpoint, rather than having a viewpoint from mounting a camera on top of the helmet. But I like this setup so far. I think it looks great personally, but you guys leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think of this. And don't forget, the most important tool for motorcycle maintenance, if you're going to do your own work on your own motorcycle, is to buy a service manual. $30 to $40, and you can usually get 20% off with a code. I left one down below. Save you guys some money, and make sure you do things the right way. Don't tear anything up. Y'all stay safe, keep on riding, and we'll see you in the next one.